Globalization and regulation of new media. Introduction. Hello everyone. Welcome to the lecture on globalization and regulation of new media. This lecture is a part of your paper on media and globalization. In this lecture, you will learn about the need to regulate media and the instruments utilized to regulate the media. This shall provide the context for placing the challenges new media poses to traditional media regulation and contextualizing the regulatory trends being seen in response. The history of media has witnessed several flashpoints driven by new foundational technologies that have transformed the landscape of creating and disseminating information. The 14th century saw the printing press give rise to mass production of books. The 19th century saw the introduction of photography and still imagery. And the 20th century saw the rise of audio-visual forms of media through radio, television, and motion pictures. Globalization itself has been driven by technologies allowing greater audiences to be reached out to and allowing people to connect with each other despite borders. The foundational technology of the current century, the Internet, has truly globalized the world, allowing for global, automated, efficient, and cheap information exchange across networks of networks. It has become so intertwined with all facets of life that some scholars feel that we live currently in a modern information society where information itself is a valuable asset. Information society. People access the cyberspace through a range of different devices, including desktop computers, laptops, tablets, and mobile phones. Today, both interpersonal and mass communication takes place through digital technologies, allowing for the inception of a new form of media known as new media. Its technological underpinnings have been referred to as the Web 2.0. New media. We define new media as content made available through different means of electronic communication made possible through the use of digital technologies for production, distribution, exhibition, and use. Examples of such media can include online videos, e-books, digital magazines and newspapers, and social media accessed through any internet-enabled device, including computers and mobile phones. Moving on with the first part of the lecture, let us now try to understand how media regulation works. Part 1. Globalization and media regulation. The media has often been called the fourth pillar of democracy by acting as the voice of the public, informing the public about the pertinent issues and serving to be a check on the state. It is necessary to ensure that the media industry is free to follow their choice of cultural or international functions and is able to cater to only the needs and interests of the audiences. Due to this, the media has been provided legal privileges and protections to ensure its independence from undue influence or pressure from the state, political actors, or private interests. These are often placed within the context of the right to freedom of speech and expression. We see this enshrined within the Indian Constitution under Article 19 that makes this right a fundamental right. In the United States, the media industry is expressly protected under the First Amendment of the US Constitution. However, this does not allow the media industry to remain unregulated. With globalization, the media industry has become dominated by large private corporates driven by profit incentives. It is necessary for the state to create appropriate regulatory frameworks to secure the public interest and ensure the accountability of the media. From the perspective of the state, absolute and unrestricted use of public means of communication is an impossibility. Information can be dangerous, and the use of mass media to cause real harm to life, property, and society, or pose a threat to public order requires little elaboration. Given these factors, media regulation generally focuses on the content being disseminated, the conduct of media players and actors, the ownership structures of media companies, ensuring equitable access, securing universal distribution of media without discrimination. Media regulation takes place through two types of policy instruments. Formal regulation. The state regulates the media through various laws, regulations, and policies, with penal provisions and financial penalties for violations. Traditionally, the state has approached media regulation through a segmented approach, with dedicated regulators for separate types of media companies. Further, the priority of such regulation for a state depending upon the socio-cultural context and the nature of the state itself. For instance, the EU focuses on regulating the ownership of the media and on competition laws more than content control, while in China, content control laws are the highest priority. Informal regulation. These are voluntary efforts by the media industry and can involve the use of self-regulation codes and guidelines, such as advertising standards or guidelines concerning journalistic conduct. In recent times, the self-regulation of the media has gained greater importance, with media houses seeking to justify self-regulation as an effort to preserve the independence of the media. Recap of Part 1. This part of the lecture provides a brief overview of the manner in which media is regulated. We saw what are the focus areas where media regulation is needed and what kind of policy instruments are adopted by different institutions. The next section shall focus on impact of new media on the media industry. Part 2. The impact of new media. The rise of new media has been in parallel with the internet. This has had a profound impact on the nature and structure of the media industry, as well as on the processes of creation, dissemination, and utilization of the media. The phenomenon of technological convergence. A defining feature of new media has been convergence of technologies underpinning communication. The internet has allowed for a wide range of different content to be transmitted through a single channel as well as offer new forms of digital media. A single website can host audio, visual, text and graphics as well as be interactive, allowing consumers to engage with the media directly and in real time. The internet is also accessible through both computers and the relatively cheaper mobile phones, allowing all individuals across income brackets to engage in this converged consumption today. The fastest commercially available network, 4G LTE, can be bought in India for less than 5,000. This further enhances technological convergence, as a mobile phone with internet access can access both mobile dedicated media, mobile applications, as well as conventional websites. New technologies such as virtual reality and augmented reality are also set to transform the creation dissemination of media by allowing for greater immersion and engagement with content by the user. As the internet evolves, the technologies for delivering media shall continue to become more and more diverse, yet still be offered through a single entry point: virtual reality and augmented reality. The democratization of public communication. With new media, the costs of creation and dissemination of content have dramatically fallen, both in terms of the financial costs as well as the infrastructure prerequisites. Unlike traditional forms of media, media created through digital platforms can be done by any individual or organization through an internet connection. Online blogs have proliferated rapidly, while platforms such as YouTube and SoundCloud allow users to create videos and music from their homes. Consumers today are no longer mere consumers, but are also active producers of content. With new media, the conventional image of a passive audience of couch potatoes no longer holds true. The rise of user-generated content, social networking sites, and virtual communities are examples of this changing dynamic of new visible media outlets. One can look at the role of social media played in the Arab Spring to take note of the sheer impact such new forms of media can have in informing and mobilizing people. Abundance of networked content. New media providers seek to target consumers who are constantly connected online through a wide range of platforms, technologies, and devices. As per analysis conducted by Cisco in 2015, the volume of internet traffic has crossed the zettabyte threshold. 1 zettabyte is equivalent to 250 billion DVDs. This amount will be double again by 2019, driven by the use of mobile technologies. The flexibility of data to express all kinds of information has allowed for the recognition of data as dynamic, interlinked, and updated in real time. Digital media also exhibits rapid speeds of transmission across large global audiences. The term viral, such as in marketing or videos or the ubiquitous meme, illustrates the new framework of communication that the internet has provided. Global multidimensional media companies. The globalized new media environment has also seen the rise of new actors, platforms, and companies dedicated to either digitizing existing traditional media or offering new, purely digital content to global audiences. Many new companies have emerged, offering new media alternatives to traditional media. For instance, Netflix has shifted from being a movie rental service to becoming a major online platform providing movies and TV shows today. A similar service called Hotstar is gaining steam in the Indian market. Many new purely online media websites such as Scroll or The Wire in India, many radio show hosts also have podcasts or appear on internet radio platforms. Traditional media houses have also sought to establish a digital presence through websites, blogs, and mobile applications. For instance, one can look at The Economist or The Hindu, both of which have websites and apps witnessing significant traffic. Further, many companies with unique and disruptive business models have come up to function as transmedia platforms in the online space, such as social media companies or media aggregators. We see today that social media companies such as Facebook and Twitter are today one of the primary sources of both interpersonal and public communication, blurring the lines between the two. Consolidation of media ownership. The issue of media monopolies or the rise of oligopolistic transmedia and transnational media companies has been a long-standing issue in media regulation. Such consolidation of media ownership takes place through horizontal and vertical integration, mergers and acquisition, and cross-media holdings in the news, cable, and broadband industries. Cooper 2004. Media markets with few players reduce the diversity and plurality of the media market. Further, some scholars also focus on the broader issue of large media companies exercising autocratic control over communications in society by virtue of their financial muscle, capability to control a range of media services, and capability to engage in covert cooperation with political actors to achieve specific political objectives. Barnett 2010. The rise of convergent media has further spurred this process of consolidation of ownership, with new media companies being invested in by traditional media houses, as well as by broadcasting and telecommunications providers. The tie-up of AT&T and Time Warner in the US. We have large conglomerates getting involved in the media space, such as Amazon entering the video streaming space. In a world with an abundance of media content and options in media platforms, such consolidation of media ownership poses significant concerns for the future of diversity and plurality in new media. Commodification of attention and data. The revenue models for media companies have generally been focused on the commodification of attention by providing spaces for advertising. The media industry functions as an attention economy, where advertising companies pay for the opportunity to reach and shape public perceptions through media companies. With the internet, there has been scope for greater individualization of media delivery, as well as a greater collection of data regarding consumers from the media platforms themselves. This combination of commodified attention and data shapes the online advertising industry, and by consequence, the business models of media companies. The primary income of social media companies comes from their ability to offer detailed data about their users' habits and behavior patterns to advertising companies. in order to better target consumers online. Recap of Part 2. In this part of the video, we assess the impact of new media through factors like the phenomenon of technological convergence, abundance of network content, global multidimensional media companies, consolidation of media ownership, and commodification of attention and data. This impact of new media has had a significant impact on media regulatory frameworks across the world. The next section shall focus on the regulatory challenges posed by new media. Part 3. Regulatory challenges posed by new media. With the rise of new media, several countries have faced three broad challenges with regulating such digitally powered media services. The extension and application of existing analog legal frameworks to the online space. The creation of dedicated statutes to respond to unique challenges emerging from the convergence of technologies. The need to respond to difficulties with jurisdiction in the wake of globalized media companies appealing to global audiences. Content regulation. The regulation of online content has been a pressing issue, especially due to the lack of any specific frameworks for new media. As a result, new media companies often escape various restrictions imposed on traditional media companies, especially in terms of analog content regulation laws that have been applied to the print or TV or radio. Different countries are responding through a variety of regulation. In 2016, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting of India advocated greater self-regulation of the media as the best way forward. Some nations, such as Singapore, have simply treated the internet as the same category as broadcast media. Thus, internet media services are held up to the same standards of libel, preventing sedition and communal disharmony, etc., as broadcast media is. On the other hand, nations such as China have recently enacted dedicated and expansive statutes for regulating online content. Whatever be the instrument, the focus areas of such regulation has been on the following: speech and censorship laws. Traditionally, content regulation through speech and censorship laws focus directly on the publishers and creators of content in order to control the dissemination of media. However, new media has forced these laws to shift focus. Media regulators has employed collateral censorship to indirectly regulate content creators online through the owners of internet infrastructure and new internet companies, such as search engines, social media platforms, or video hosting services. Balkan 2014. This is because of the difficulties being faced in directly censoring user-generated content online. Internet companies have established notice and takedown regimes to remove online content in return for being provided safe harbor provisions for content they do not exercise editorial control over. One example of such a safe harbor provision can be found in Section 79 of the Information Technology Act of 2000 of India. This has provided some order to the chaotic world of user-generated content online, but has also raised concerns about excessive restrictions on the freedom of speech online and censorship by private entities. The Shreya Singhal judgment in India is an example of legal system responding to the challenges of freedom of speech online by mandating the need for a judicial direction or government order before online content can be taken down within the framework of Section 79. However, this is a continuing challenge as content regulation and its enforcement faces difficulty adapting to the abundance of information available online. Further, the abundance of spaces where individuals can communicate anonymously through encryption or anonymization technologies or through underground virtual communities constantly expands as the internet evolves. Right to know versus national security. A recent challenge being faced by media regulators has been with handling leaks of sensitive government information. The WikiLeaks controversy in 2010, when around 250,000 US State Department diplomatic cables were released online, and the Snowden revelations thereafter have created tensions between the public's right to know about the activities of the state and national security. It is necessary for media law frameworks to reconcile the issue of whistleblowing and journalistic protections with national security concerns, especially in the light of mass audiences that such revelations on new media can reach. Social media and international terrorism. Some scholars argue that mass reach of the new media has also contributed to an increased threat to international terrorism. Crews state that the media coverage of terrorism, as well as the nature of social media, encourages terrorists and criminals seeking public attention. By allowing for the mass broadcasting of devastation, he argues that the media's coverage motivates further attacks. He cites the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing as a recent example, where significant and multi-platform media coverage posed a direct danger to law enforcement agencies due to people revealing sensitive information on social media about their movements and tactics. Crews 2011. We have also seen the use of social media as a recruiting platform by the Islamic State through a complex, detailed recruitment platform. For example, one can look at the research conducted by the International Institute for Counter-Terrorism in 2016 on the use of specific blog on the Tumblr platform by the terrorist organization to recruit women. Fake news. The abundance of content online and democratization of public communication has also given rise to a unique problem of fake news being available online. Unlike traditional media, editorial controls and journalistic integrity is far less observed in online spaces, allowing for the rapid proliferation of unverified content. Clearly, ensuring journalistic integrity online and educating audiences about identification of authentic sources and media literacy, as well as reconciling this with safe harbor provision, is a pressing concern today. Regulation of online conduct. Media regulation has also been faced with difficulties in regulating conduct in the digital media environment. New challenges have arisen due to consumers being active creators online, as well as due to the networked nature of the internet. Primarily, conduct regulation must look at the following. Number 1. Intellectual property rights. Due to the nature of data, digital media has become extremely easy to replicate and distribute online. Copyright violations and piracy of content can be committed anonymously and through distributed computing, allowing for rapid transmission of protected content in untraceable ways. Thus, the extension and enforcement of intellectual property rights online has increasingly become a pressing concern. Number 2. Privacy and data protection. With the commodification of data and attention, it has become increasingly important to also look at the challenge of privacy and data protection online. In order to provide appropriate protections for the consumers of digital media and the utilization of their data by advertising and media companies. Internet governance and new media. The governance structures, technical standards, and principles governing the internet also affect the ways in which information is created and disseminated online. Given that new media rests on the internet architecture, decisions regarding the allocation and utilization of this infrastructure also have a bearing on the regulation of new media. For instance, though there has been a deregulation and licensing of spectrum by the government to the telecommunications and internet service providers, allowing for such services to be offered by private players in addition to the public sector, governments such as India often charge heavy license fees. Such service providers pass on this cost of acquisition down the value chain which includes new media and internet companies utilizing this infrastructure to provide their media services as well as end users consuming such media services. Further, issues concerning the openness and freedom of the internet also affect the access and distribution of new media. One such key issue is that the net neutrality currently being debated in the US by the FCC and in India by the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. The issue involves the possibility of allowing internet service providers and telecommunication companies to treat different types of data online differently and to charge users differential rates or offer differential internet speeds depending upon the source of accessing content, website and applications online. New media companies may find themselves blocked out from online audiences simply because they are unable to compete with the large media companies that can pay internet service providers to prioritize their websites instead. This can threaten the diversity and plurality of content online. However, there are technological and resource allocation considerations offered by telecommunications companies in response. The debate is yet to be finalized globally and shall impact new media regulation if it reaches a lasting conclusion. Competition policy. Another major issue of media regulation is that of ensuring competitiveness and diversity of the new media market itself. In the wake of greater media consolidation across various forms of media and the impact of technological convergence. This is the domain of competition law seeks to protect consumer choice in terms of diversity and plurality of the media, as well as ensure the effective functioning of free market forces of demand and supply. As transnational media companies become larger and more globalized, competition law must adapt to consider the globalized nature of markets. Competition law has traditionally been focused on domestic markets, and various countries face jurisdictional issues in enforcing such law on transnational companies. Further, there is also the need to examine the issue of foreign holdings of media companies within national media markets. Finally, it is necessary for media regulation to look at cross-media holdings and the issue of vertical integration to address the unique issue of anti-competitive practices by internet and the new media companies. For instance, Google has been repeatedly attacked by the EU for engaging in anti-competitive practices, where regulators are accusing the company of prioritizing its own offerings. Recap of Part 3. In this part of the lecture, we elaborated upon regulatory challenges posed by new media by looking at regulation concerning content, conduct, competition, and governance. In doing so, we looked at the issues of speech and censorship, social media and terrorism, fake news, net neutrality, intellectual property rights, among many other pertinent issues. Conclusion. The present lecture examined three main aspects in globalization and the regulation of new media. First, the purpose of and manner in which the media is regulated. Second, the impact of new media on the media industry. Third, an overview of various regulatory challenges emerging therefore. As new media continues to transform the ways in which people create and communicate information, this lecture provided overview of the various law and challenges involved in the regulation of media in the internet age. In this lecture, we learnt about the difficulties being faced by the media regulatory frameworks in responding to the new media. With globalization and the internet, the process of technological and commercial convergence has been witnessed in the media ecosystem. Media regulation has been forced to readapt for the cyberspace environment in terms of freedom of speech online or in terms of regulating the conduct of online companies or regulating the ownership and corporate structure of media companies, among other challenges. There are continuing challenges for regulators across the world as the changing nature of the internet continues to provide new challenges every day. Thank you.